Greenology Private Limited, started in 2008, is an urban greening specialist which transforms barren concrete urban spaces into living, thriving habitats and sustainable ecosystems, both indoors and outdoors. The company offers solutions for vertical greening, urban farming systems, and employs more than 40 employees with a presence in over 6 countries.
Right, my name is Veera. I'm the owner, founder and managing director of Greenology Private Limited. I'm a botanist by training. We are urban greening specialists and we do work in Singapore as well as around the region, and we're beginning to go international as well. I come from a very poor background. My father was a labourer. He was an immigrant from India. He worked as a labourer in the old naval base in Sembawang area. I have a family come from a family of 9 children. My mother was basically a housewife, also came from Malaysia, but originally from India as well. So we're an immigrant Indian family. So we started off in the naval base quarters where all the workers for the shipyard used to stay and the labourers used to stay. Imagine 11 of us staying in two rooms in a workers' quarters. That's how life started for me. My father died when I was 5 years old. Left behind 8 children with my mother, who was only about 30 odd years old at that time. And life was tough, really tough. We grew up with very little food. School was very difficult as well. We were very fortunate to be in Singapore at that time because we were still in the early 1960s and 70s, and the country was just beginning to gain independence, was just moving on. And it was an initiative by the government to look after its population. We were all Singaporeans. So we went to school, we had opportunities to go to school and to have an education. There were free textbooks. We couldn't afford to buy books. Uniforms were not available. I used to go to school with paper bags under my arms and no blackboards. Pencils and pens were picked up from the streets. Shoes were not available. Used to pick up shoes and got uniforms were borrowed and hand-me-downs. Books were hand-me-downs. So imagine growing up in those circumstances. I went through national service, and going through national service was interesting for me because at that time I already had a place in the university, and getting a place in the university in Singapore at that period of time was not easy. Only 5% of the cohort would make it to the university. So having worked all my life and putting myself through school and living off free textbooks and handouts and everything else, finishing national service and not going to university was very difficult for me. My brother told me that, we can't afford to send you to the university. But on the last few days of my, when I was about to complete my national service, I met a gentleman by chance. Was just sitting down having a chat with some of the guys who just were finishing off. And this gentleman walked in to the Sembawang camp where I was doing my national service. And he had just come into that place and he was just having drinks down there with another friend of his. And I knew the other guy because he was from the same area that I lived. And he started talking to me and asking me, you speak different, your English is better than all the other guys. I say, well, I studied till A levels, I got decent results. And they say, what are you going to do? And I said, I got a place in the university, but I can't afford to go to the university because the family can't afford it. And he said, you must be stupid. For someone to make it to the university at this time and not being able to afford to go. See, don't have to worry about it. I'll put you through, I'll pay your school fees. It was like out of the blue, he just said it. And I asked him, why are you doing this? And he said, well, I grew up from the same area that you grew up in, because that's where all the labourers' children were, It was a poverty cycle for all of us in that particular area. So the poor children would always go through that poverty cycle and stay poor all the time. So he had gone through that cycle and had come out of it. So he was a successful lawyer. I found out later that he was a successful lawyer. His name was Haridas Ajib. He's a very famous lawyer. And he basically told me, I'll pay for your university education, but you must put yourself through school after that. And I did. I went through, I got my degree in botany. And basically when I went back after I graduated, went to him and told him, I need to pay you back. And he looked at me and told me, you don't have to pay me back. Just help someone exactly in your same situation and you'll find that, you need to help someone, you should do it. And I've been doing that ever since. So I went on to work in the landscape industry, and basically I was the curator of the zoo and the night safari. I built most of the zoo and the night safari. I was a director in the National Parks Board. I was the head of horticulture for Changi Airport. I was in government and I was in private sector. And 8 years ago, I decided to start my own business. I was in the civil service. I was doing very well in the civil service, and I decided, no, I think I should do something on my own, because I think the motivation and the drive was a little bit different for me. So although it was quite late in life, I learned that I figured that I was a different person, that I think the early years of my life probably made my personality what I am, that I could face challenges and I could take on more and more. And I realized that I actually could excel to doing other things rather than just being constrained and kept in a box and told what to do. Starting was not easy. When I started, it was just the start of the financial crisis, and it was a very tough time. I had a piece of land that I tendered for with the government, and I had gotten a piece of land, and I wanted to start something to do with greening, urban greening within Singapore, and to start something very new. That's when my journey with greenology started. Starting off was I had no help. For the first 2.5 years, 3 years, I was indebted. The banks didn't give you any money because you're new startup, and very little help came from friends as well, because I mean at that time everyone was a bit skeptical about starting new businesses during that financial crisis, and what I was going into was something relatively new for many of them. So I did not go and ask for help. So I decided to go it on my own. I didn't pay salary for myself for nearly 2.5 years. Was indebted with mostly credit card debts, because that's the only way you could roll the money, because it was unsecured loans and you could just carry on rolling. And I think it was a challenge for me at that point in time. And essentially, staff were paid. I wasn't paid. And the projects, I was doing a lot of research and getting a lot of the different systems that I was trying to develop, and was putting a lot of money to develop these systems. And finally, we had a breakthrough. We had a very large project with the government, and that basically was the turning point for us. But when the turning point happened, when I was peaking in my career, at that point when the business was just beginning to build up, another challenge came. I had a very rare condition. I was afflicted with a very rare condition called Parsonage-Turner syndrome. That rendered me paralyzed. Both my arms were paralyzed, completely paralyzed. And I was given 6 months to live. So everything just happened for a reason, just up and down. So this is one of the challenges that I had. And basically, the doctors told me they couldn't help me and I wasn't going to survive. And it was just when my business was just beginning to pick up, when everything just started to drop again. And I just was very depressed, went through a very difficult stage. But the business just carried on because my staff believed in me. And I just went back, carried on going back to work, taking a taxi and, just really just struggling and keeping my spirits alive. People ask me how I got over that period, because given 6 months to live, I went past the 6 months period and I was still alive and I was still carrying on with everything that I was doing. Even though I couldn't use both my arms, I couldn't eat, couldn't do anything, and I was struggling. My mother was looking after me at that point in time. And it was a very difficult period. The turning point came when more projects started coming after that first project, and people saw that I wasn't giving up. The perseverance that I had, I wasn't giving up my business, nor what I believed in, and the passion that I had. And I think that basically became a turning point for people to see that what I was doing was something that was making a difference, not only to them, but also to my life and everyone else around me. So the business started to grow from then on, and I got better as well. We've done the greening of the F1 pit building. We've done Changi General Hospital, the indoor green walls in Changi General Hospital. We've just finished the MediaCorp building. It's got a very large indoor green wall, and the facades are all greened up as well. We've done the Heron shopping centres, which goes up to about 30-odd meters tall. We're doing a lot of interesting projects. If you go down Orchard Road and you see some green walls that are actually on some of the facades that you have, like Shaw Centre, for example, or even the Holiday Inn Express. These are green walls that's done by our company. Figure out what your passion is, because I think if you do what your passion is, it's not work anymore. And once you've realized what your passion is, I think pursue it with an objective to use that passion to make people's lives better. And I think if you approach anything in your life, even business or any other outcome in your life, to using your passion to make people's lives better, and I think that's the most important thing that you want to do as a business or as a person. And I think I do it all the time. I'm not a businessman per se who goes after money. I do what I do to create money to help people, and that's the basic premise that I have. So I'm not the businessman that you see that would make millions of dollars. That's not what I am. I'm making things happen for a lot of people. I create jobs, and I create what I do to give up to as many people as I want. Every employee who comes to work for me has to understand that life is not about chasing money. That's basically it.